brief overview or some overview about adult education in California, and we'll have some time for some questions and answers. So if you're all ready, here we go. Let's see if I can get it to move forward now. One moment, let me find out why it's not moving forward. And there we go. Okay. So this is kind of how I laid out the time for today. We're going to talk about funding, the continuous improvement plan, outcomes, surveys and survey data, and the impacts of COVID-19 on adult education here in California. And I appreciate that everyone's been putting information in the chat. And I just wanted to let you know that in California, our WIOA funding, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Title II, Adult Education Family Literacy Act dollars, California receives about $103 million. And 82.5% of those dollars go out to adult schools, community college non-credit programs, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, library literacy programs, and correctional education. So those dollars really support what's happening in the field. And these are meant to be supplemental to your state funding. For WIOA, everything is done online, and WIOA is a reimbursement grant, which means that your agency spends money first, and then you are reimbursed on a quarterly basis for that funding. For CAPE, which is the California Adult Education Program, we this year our funding is at almost $540 million, and that is split into the 71 consortia throughout the state. I want to give a little bit of an update on these dollars. We've had some issues with kind of doing what's called an interagency agreement between the California Department of Education and the Chancellor's Office. And so we were delayed in getting some of those dollars out. However, the July through October, so any of the administrators in the room will be happy to hear this. The July through August funding was sent to the state controller on the 4th. It takes about 3 weeks or less to get into your county office. And then the November apportionment was sent to the controller on the 12th, so same time frame. And then they're starting on the December apportionment. So I know that everyone will be happy that that money is starting to flow again. And we're working closely with CCAE and CAA, the Administrators Association, on finding ways to help reduce the amount of time that this interagency agreement takes, and to find some ways to ensure that money is getting into your agency's coffers much sooner than this time. All right, I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to move into our continuous improvement plan. For those of you that are administrators, you know that you normally have to turn in for WIOA Title II, a professional development plan, a technology and distance learning plan, an IELCE plan, and they're all due at different times of the year. And you're supposed to, it doesn't make sense to do real planning if they're due at different times of the year, and you can't look at your improvement in totality. So our continuous improvement plan, which will be due April 30th, is really meant to be a working living document. And the reason I'm talking about this today in a room full of teachers, support staff, and administrators is that you all have to work on this together. These plans are not going to be written solely by the school administrator. These plans really are going to require staff working together, teachers, support staff, administrators, similar to what you might find if you were doing a WASC, although not quite as in-depth. You'll be looking at data, making some determinations, and then setting up some SMART goals for your next year. Then the following year, you'll revisit your SMART goals. How did you do? And again, you'll look at data and you'll move forward with your next year's goals. So we really want this to be a useful planning document, a living document that your agency can come back and revisit throughout the year to see how you're doing on your SMART goals, because as you know, a SMART goal is time bound and you should have some milestones in there. The other piece that will be beneficial for this is that it's going to be really helpful for CAPE when we get to the 3-year planning cycle. And we're going to be looking at having this be a component of that or be helpful in that 3-year planning cycle. All right, I want to pause just for a moment and we're going to switch gears. So we've been talking about funding. We've been talking about this continuous improvement plan, which hopefully is going to help increase your outcomes. We have a lot of different outcomes that we look at in the state. One of the outcomes that we need everyone's help on to so that we can increase our data is on the Employment and Earnings Survey. This is a survey of your students 6 months or 2 quarters after they have exited your program. And it's for students that we don't have a Social Security number for. And I will tell you that in California, that's about 80% of our students in our adult education programs. This survey is designed using CASAS to help you push it out, and it can go out to your students in a text or in an email. And it's 4 questions, and it's designed to be simple. The literacy level is very low, as low as we can kind of get it, to help answer the questions. But it asks the students if they have a job, yes or no. It asks the students if they have a job, how much do they make a month? And then it asks them if they're attending an adult school now. That's the 3rd question. And the 4th question is if they are, what adult school are they attending? When we added those last 2 questions, those questions we don't need to report to the U.S. Department of Education, but we felt those were useful for adult schools, because if you have a student that says they don't have a job and they're not attending school, it's a good opportunity then to reach out to that student and reconnect with that student to bring them back into your education program, and hopefully you'll be able to help them move forward and to get a job. So I wanted to share with you, and I know this is a really busy screen, and I tried to lessen it, and I can't really increase it. So I will send this to Micah so that he can share it out. But what I wanted you to be aware of is that we have, this is what's called our Federal Table 5. So this is from last year, but it's actually from the year before because of your students that exited. So I'm going to sort of walk you through it, but the pieces that we want to look at are some of these last percentages. So this is the number of participants who exited the program, and then who were employed the 2nd quarter after they exited. This is the number of participants who achieved an outcome or median earnings value. So this means that these are the number of students that exited after they left your program This is these are the percentage of, these are the number of students that said they either had an increase in pay or they had a job. And then this is what their average earnings were. Our issue is that our return rate on this survey is really low. And it is causing great consternation at the US Department of Education that we're not getting better results. And I actually have to have a meeting next week with them about this because they want to know why we're not getting good results. And so this table is complicated. I'll send it to Micah. So we've tried to come up with an idea of how to increase student participation in this survey. Now, for those of you that are classroom teachers and those of you that are support staff, you are critical to this survey because you can help institutionalize the idea that your students are going to be getting this survey. When the students are enrolling and support staff are doing the registration and the intake, if a student doesn't have a social security number, please let them know. Oh, just so you know, when you finish your program, we really want to know how well you're doing. And our adult school counts on being able to brag that we have X number of students that have a job, and X number of students that are making a certain wage. Those transition specialists, as you're helping students transition from adult school into work or post-secondary education, again, remind them that in 2 quarters or 6 months, they're going to be getting this survey. It comes from your adult school. It comes from CASAS TE, but it has your school's information in it. And so let them know that that's coming. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and develop some type of a campaign, an outreach campaign, to allow it to encourage adult schools and teachers and support staff to not just socialize this idea, but to find ways to send students messages throughout their time in your school through texting and email, so that they're used to receiving this information from your school, receiving information from your school in that manner. Or WhatsApp, we're working with CASAS to see if the survey can get pushed out through WhatsApp. But maintaining that contact. One of the ideas that we heard recently, when your students exit your program, is you call them alumni, and you continue to reach out to them in that demographic of, you're our alumni. We want to know how you're doing. Here's a couple of things that are happening at our school that you can tell your friends about that might want to come to the adult school. So again, keeping them connected to your school. The other area that we're going to look at is we're going to try and develop some public service announcements that will feature teachers and students and support staff that will talk about the survey, and they'll be really short and brief, 30 seconds or so, that your agency can have on their website, that teachers can send out to students. You can start a class with a 30-second PSA. They'll be centered around completing the survey. They'll also talk about, we're going to have some of those related to providing your social security number. We know that some students who have social security numbers might be uncomfortable providing their number. And so it'll be saying, I know my school keeps my information secure. And so then I felt comfortable giving them my social security number. The reason that the social security number is helpful is that we can do an automatic match, data match with EDD, and we can look at the wage. We don't see it, but it's a wage file data match. So if a student has a job, then they're in an above the table job. Let's just say that, above the table job, where they're getting a paycheck with taxes taken out of it. Then they're on the state roll, and we're able to find out that they have a job and that and what their median income is. if we have that social security number. If we don't, we have to do this survey. And this survey is ongoing. It's not a one-time survey. It doesn't end. It's just going to keep going because we have to collect this data from our exiting students. So that's the survey. So we'll be working on that coming here in the winter and the spring, with it really being, we think, rolled out for the next academic year, 21-22. So I want to share a little bit about some other data that we have. This is from our table 4, which talks about our measurable skill gains. And as you can see, this is our ABE levels and our ESL levels. And then this is the percent of students that had a measurable skill gain. And so I think that's good data for you all to have, for you all to see. And you can see that I don't have the national data to compare to, but I will tell you that California isn't near the top. We're kind of near the middle to lower end in students with measurable skill gains. But we also have the largest ESL population in the country attending our schools. And so we know that our students are doing well, and we're striving to meet our targets every year. And so that is just another little piece of data that shows our outcomes. It shows the good work that you as instructors are doing in your classrooms, and it gives you that statewide perspective. Now, this is some CAPE information and some CAPE data. We do not have the 1920 data yet. That data set has not been completed or certified yet to be shared. One of the things that I wanted you to see is just this important numbers that participants with 12 instructional hours or more. Remember that a student needs to have those 12 or more instructional hours to be counted. And then this again is telling us just numbers. I don't have percentages in this table that talk about how many have completed one or more educational functioning levels, completed a workforce milestone, earned their diploma or high school equivalency, transition to post-secondary education. And then again down here, right, you'll see those employment pieces and then the median annual earnings. And so this again is pulled from that survey data. So it's really important that we get that survey data completed and that you institutionalize that for students. All right, outcomes. What will we see in 2021? Well, we know that we certainly have seen a decline in enrollment in general, although I do have some schools that have said we have more students enrolled now than we had last fall. So we do know that statewide though, right, if we generalize it, we'll see enrollment down. Where we really see significant enrollment lower is in our lower level ESL classes, right? Your levels 1 and 2. And so I'm wondering what ideas you all might have on how to attract those students into your classroom. How could you bring back your lower level ESL students? Micah, this could be a good time to unmute or let people can certainly write in the chat.
Everybody's able to unmute themselves now.
All right, great. So what ideas does anyone have for kind of attracting those ESL levels 1 and 2 students? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. Be brave.
I have some.
Hi, Carolyn. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, some of my students have dropped out because they don't have computers, and working on a cell phone is so difficult from home. So if we could find a way to get some extra computers to give out to students, needy students who would be able to really take the class remotely, that would be so essential. We need to get somebody big to donate computers, or some politicians to help us, or somebody. And I was just thinking about, because my classroom size has gone down considerably.
Mhm.
Think that if we enabled students to have another means of attending the class and then training them also on how to use the computer, that would be really essential, and we'd get more people coming to lower levels and
Mhm.
participants in class. That's just my
Right. Okay, great. And Robert, I just want to say that Courtney added in not just computers, but hotspots and Wi-Fi. So go ahead, Robert. What's your idea?
Well, it's more of a question. You
Okay.
mentioned a large number of our students do not have social security numbers.
Do not provide them to their school.
Oh, well,
So
can we assume they might not have them and that
yes,
they are
yes.
not technically citizens, and they might be afraid to respond to anything that comes from anybody because they're
So
concerned about being able to be here?
right. And so that's why we really need teachers to institutionalize this idea of these 4 questions. It just goes to you as a school that, you know, we're not going to be checking up on them. You're not checking up on them. And so that's the piece that we really need help with, down to the classroom and down to the support staff, to help the students to feel comfortable about that. That's why we're going to do the PSAs as well, to help students to feel comfortable about answering that survey.
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for some of the great ideas in the chat. Any other ideas? I see some ideas about use primary language radio advertisements. That's a great one. Someone said call old wait lists, and old student rosters. Pam is saying that they're allowing, they're in an area that is allowing this. They're letting low-level students come on campus in groups of 2 to 5 at a time to give them some more hands-on help. And I know that in that area, they also had laptops to give out and computers to give out. Good idea. I'm not sure. Lopez, need to promote ESL classes in our K-12 schools. Really promote to your districts the fact that you're helping the parents of their students, and that if their parents can be successful on the computer, then they can help their students to be successful, and it really helps the whole family. So thank you very much for those ideas. All right, we're gonna go on here. I don't know if I can find my pointer thing. All right. So speaking of surveys, so obviously we talk about the employment and earnings survey. But right now we've also brought in, and this will really go to Mary Ann's comment. We've also started a student technology intake survey. And this is a survey that is for your students. And we would like you to use this as you enroll new students into your programs, and you can certainly use it with current students as well. But it will give us an assessment of technology accessibility for our students that we can then share at the legislative level, at the state superintendent, and at the chancellor level, and also nationally. So it will help to drive that information out that we need to talk about the fact that students don't have connectivity, that they don't have devices, right? That they need those pieces. And so I would encourage you to have students do this. It can be a PDF that you could email. Maybe a student doesn't have a camera or something to do Zoom. You can email. It could be hard copy mailed with a self-addressed stamped envelope back, so that you get that data. Someone will have to enter that kind of data in, but it's really fine. We're finding it useful, but we only have about 4,000 students in so far, and we have over 400,000 students enrolled, right? So we have a very, very small percentage. So that information will help us to really advocate for the technology needs of our students. And it also will help you at an agency level for getting a sense of where your students are at with technology. Are they having to share one computer in their house? Are they on metered data, right? So metered data is an issue. Maybe they have multiple devices in their house, but their bandwidth is small. So it's hard for everyone to be online at the same time. So that information will help agencies to look at how they're delivering online distance learning instruction. In August and September, we did a survey out to all of the agency administrators to find out what their plan was for offering adult classes here in the fall. And you'll see from this slide that 81, almost 82% of everyone is doing online, with about 15% doing a hybrid type of a class, and a very small number doing traditional in-person classes. And those are in areas that are obviously have very low cases and very small schools. So what are we seeing as the impact of COVID-19? We're certainly seeing decreased enrollment. This is happening nationwide. We're seeing decreased enrollment. We're seeing challenges with testing, challenges with students being able to connect onto platforms so that they can participate in virtual classes. But so those are the negatives, right? Those are the negatives. But there's got to be some positives of COVID-19 with adult schools. I'm always striving to talk about the positive. And what are those silver linings that we have out of all of this? And so I'm posing that to all of you. Again, another opportunity to share ideas that you might have on what are the positives? What do you see as some positives of what's happening right now with for your students and for your school? So you can put it in the chat as you've done before, or you can certainly unmute yourself if Mike is giving you that option, and share your ideas. So let's see, Courtney says easier access to classes for single parents, especially CTE. Micah says more students are accessing classes virtually. Accelerated evolution in tech, digital access. Teachers are improving technology skills. Adults are using technology. More adaptability of students and staff. I'm wondering if, I'd like to hear from, who said that? Oh, Ryan, can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by accelerated evolution in tech and digital access?
Sure. I think in some of our most difficult times in education, that's when we make our fastest evolution. In budget crises, you have to trim back to the bare essentials and find out what's important and then rebuild. Well, in this one, it's a different type of crisis, but again, we are forced to adapt and adjust, and we would have maybe taken 20 years for some of this evolution to take place, but it's all happening in months.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I like this one, Marianne. Some students are talking more in class. They're less shy on a video conference. That's great. Flexibility for students and teachers. kind of back to what Ryan was talking about with this idea of creativity and innovation. And Micah says that everyone seemed to really get on to video conferencing pretty quickly and learned how to do that. So those are really great positives. And it's really important that we, you know, when we're hearing about the increase in cases, that we're gonna, you know, as we move into the winter, there's talk about the increase in cases, and we're hearing a lot of doom and gloom when it's related to COVID-19. And so I think it's good for us to focus on these positive pieces, including, as Robert says, he has more attendance for students because they don't have to drive anywhere. And that for those students that travel, perhaps those that have the opportunity to travel right now, I'm not sure that many people get to, but they can still come to class. And then that there's some more individuals taking classes because of the GI Bill. CTE classes are filling up as people are looking for different jobs, retooling. So that's the impact. And, you know, one of the things that we've been hearing now, right, for the last 9 months, is this idea of the new normal. When we go back, it's going to be a new normal, whatever the new normal is. So I want you to think for a minute, and really think about this, that when we have a vaccine and someone says you're able to now have students in your class, what is your adult program or your adult classroom? What is it going to look like? What is going to be the new normal for your adult education program? So think about that for a minute. And I'm going to really give you 60 seconds to sit and ponder that, because I think it's something that we need to be ready for when we move that direction. So take 60 seconds, and then I'll be asking for some people to share. I should have put up a little timer for all of you. All right, about 10 more seconds. All right, what's the new normal going to look like for your adult class or your adult school? Who wants to jump out and share? I'd really love to have people talk about these, share them out loud. Pam, you want to unmute yourself and share?
Sure. So I think because of what Ryan was talking about earlier, of the acceleration of our teachers' ability to use technology, we have been able to put our curriculum into new formats that we didn't really have before. We just had, here's your textbook, here's your printout, and now they can access so much online. So I think we'll have much more hybrid classes happening, continuing, and then students are more used to getting their material not just in the classroom, but at home and online at any time.
Got it. Okay, Darlene, I'm going to let you share, and I'm going to walk away for just a couple seconds because my cat is at the door and it's raining and he'd like to go in. But Darlene, I'm going to be able to hear you. So you talk for those seconds. Go for it.
I just feel that with this online virtual, my students in the nursing program find it more of a home base. They feel more connected because they're in an environment that they're not judged by, their colleagues as much. So I'm liking the online. I feel that they're getting the concepts of nursing. I just really like it. And the students are saying, oh, we feel so good. I don't have to, my kids are here and I don't have to get them up to be at this hospital by 6 o'clock. So it's a time management for my nursing students. They're loving it. They're really embracing this online virtual nursing.
When he comes to visit.
Oh, what is it? Is that a Tabitha?
Yes, and now the cat came. And now the cat came to visit, and he's all wet.
Oh no!
See, only on a virtual conference you get these fun things that happen.
It's good for this.
All right, who else would like to share? Who else would like to share? Well, come on, I need someone else brave.
Carolyn, this
Hi,
is Patricia Bradshaw.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
Nice seeing you again.
Hi.
I
Yes,
teach
you as well.
medical assisting, and our classes are going well. We have declined in some students though, but we're picking them back up. But I have found with my students, we have gone to Moodle now, and which was very different for me. I had never used it before. So I, for one, it was hard, but adjusting to it. And I agree with the hybrid classes, but where I feel the students need is to come back on campus doing the skill sets that are very essential, because it's hard. You can't I can't, I'm only talking for myself. It's difficult to try to put a medical assistant student with as much as the knowledge they need to have and the hands-on with just doing it on Zoom. So I do a tremendous amount of theory, and then of course the hands-on in the afternoon. And it was difficult for students, and I think it's wonderful because they are at home with their children and they are able to do things, but some of them don't care for it. They want to get out, they want to go back to school, they want their children at school. So I think it's kind of a split for me. It's kind of a split listening to the students. And so I just wanted to share that, but I agree with it. But it's also, it's hard for students as well. And if this is our new norm, well, then it's our new norm.
Well, and I think that certainly our CTE classes are some of our most challenging classes to do online. So I know that when we are able to get into some type of a hybrid situation where you're able to provide that content piece that you talked about, Patricia, online, but yet the students come in for the hands-on pieces that is beneficial.
It is. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other ideas to share?
Carolyn, Deanna.
Yes, Virginia. Oh, Virginia, and then Susino?
Yes.
No, Deanna. Oh, got it. Deanna. Okay, so Virginia.
So I just wanted to say our court reporting program was on site, right? Just like other classes. And when COVID came and we had it shut down, our court reporting teachers and students realized, they had to go online, and they started getting all their classes together. We loaned out some, machines if they needed it. And they just did a phenomenal job in putting all the lessons online, having these breakout rooms for each level in the court reporting. And now we've actually transitioned, or pretty much almost 100% to online. And now we want to keep it that way because we find that students can enroll from different states, you know, from Northern California to Southern California. We're able to actually increase our enrollment, right? And we do offer financial aid for that program. So it's actually going extremely well, and we want to continue that. So it actually is working out for us, which is interesting. That's one of the main programs that we have here. That's a long-standing program, and again, a very strong program, and they're doing very well. So the transition was good for us, actually.
That's great. And I know that many courts are doing virtual court. And so that's a good experience for them to have this. So Deanne?
Just quickly, my evening students, this has really benefited them because, you know, there's that late afternoon to evening, there's that lull, but there's always people who can show up then, and then people can work, you know, 3 in the morning if they want to. And that's been really, really great. And they do, they work. So people that I haven't seen, and that's the big thing, is people that I haven't seen, like my regulars are there, but I've missed some, but people that I haven't seen for a long time because of their work schedule. And they work, you know, 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, because I can see when they do their work online. And that's been really great to see that outpouring of people coming back, and their notes of just saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we can do this. I had no idea. And just they're very grateful. So that's been great.
Great. Anyone else want to share?
I just want to say I really love this conversation because I remember, you know, back in the spring when we first started talking about this, all we heard about was everything we couldn't do. You know, it was just like, wow. And this is really nice to hear because there really are some good things coming out of it.
There are, Pam. Thank you. All right. So I want to thank all of you for one, everything that you did to pivot, right, to moving to online and distance learning, and for the ideas that you've shared during this presentation. And I know we have about 5 minutes left. And so I'd like to open it up for just general questions that you might have that I'll try my best to answer. And if you want to type them in the chat, maybe Micah could read them for me. If anyone has a question, I am more than happy to answer that for you. And just so you know, I was a teacher at one time, so I have good wait time.
Okay, I do have one question.
All right, Pam.
On the OTAN field student technology intake survey that's going to be available in December, mid-December, how long will that be open? I mean, that's kind of a tough time, mid-December. We kind of take a break.
So the intake survey is open all the time.
Okay.
We are sending the issue is that the results don't come directly to your agency. So we have someone in my office who took the last batch, all 3,400 of them. Luckily, it's set up in an Excel sheet with filters. And she was able to then filter it by agency, and she sent those out. Those were sent out last week. We're going to send out another batch. We'll get the newest results, and we'll send those out from whenever the last time was until mid-December, and we'll send those out for you. And then you'll be able to just take your spreadsheets and just keep adding on to them as we go along through the year. And so by the end of the year, hopefully you'll have a lot of your students in there. And we do know that there were some agencies had students on there that weren't their students. We tried to figure out how that would work, you know, where they went. So we were able to figure a couple of them out. And otherwise, you know, if you have a student on there that you don't know, then just take them off. The other piece I would say is when you give it to your students to fill out, remind them what your school is called, what your agency is, so they can find it on the drop down. So,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Mary Ann.
Yeah, on those technology surveys, once you get them and you analyze them, and you have to analyze the data and see how students are using technology
Mhm.
they're using. How would the recommendations be afterwards to, you know,
So we would look at those surveys, and we would, you know, we might even, if we don't get a really good percentage return, we'll do what statisticians do and survey people, and that's just extrapolate, right? That from the
Right.
students that filled this out, right? This is what we have. So we will just take this and generalize it across all of our adult ed programs, and we'll say that, you know, half of our students are only have one device in the house, and that's being shared between children and parent. And so it'll be more of a, from the state perspective, it'll be providing the data. It's really up to the association, CCAE, CAA, at the national level, COABE, and even our National State Directors Association. We have someone like Don Kepke, we have Capitol Hill Partners, to push out the messaging about what the ask is and what we're seeking to help our students in our programs.
Right, because in my instance, when I'm teaching, I have students that use their cell phones. It's a really narrow space, and you can tell who's using a cell phone and who's not. And they don't have access to the computer. Why? Because their kids are in school at the same time they are. It's only my morning class, and they don't have access to technology the way, you know, have the cell phone, but that's it. And it would be so helpful to be able to get like low cost computers or whatever to those students that really need them at this time during COVID to do remote teaching and remote learning.
Right.
So I'm hoping that something good will come out of the surveys and that we can take some action on it and do something later on. That's why I'm asking.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions? Micah, were there any questions in the chat?
Yes. Angela was asking if do you see us going back into the classroom anytime soon?
Oh, you know, I think that's going to vary across the state. I know my county, I'm up in El Dorado County, up in Placerville between Sacramento and South Lake Tahoe, and we're rolling back a level. We're back into red from orange today. Sacramento is going back to purple. So it's, you know, it really just depends. And so I wish I had the magic ball to tell us that. So I'm sorry.
That is pretty much it, though. It just means you did such a good job presenting all the information we needed.
All right. Well, then I think I'm done. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See
Bye-bye.
y'all at 4.